Now that the Montero was home, we started to move quickly to try to figure out why the transmission was leaking fluid. The removal process was not that bad, especially when you have a lift, but we quickly found out as soon as we removed the transmission, we found what the culprit was. The front pump seal was not even seated in, and you can clearly see where the transmission fluid was leaking out. It was definitely not an OEM Mitsubishi seal, as the OEM seals are brown. It was so loose it took a little effort to pull it out. Seals are usually pretty snug and would take a tool to remove them. I ordered an OEM Mitsubishi front pump seal, which was around $20-something. The left seal you see is the original seal we pulled out when we pulled the transmission. The right seal is the OEM one. It is a much more superior part. It has a metal outer, and when you put in the transmission, it creates a snug, tight seal. This should have solved our issue. Since the transmission was out, I went ahead and replaced both output seals, the back of the transmission and on the transfer case, and went ahead and cleaned the transmission before I went back and reinstalled it back into the Montero. Took an opportunity to look over the Montero. The driver's side door panel was damaged, which was why the master switch wasn't secured. Not much needed to be replaced, little tiny bits and pieces of interior, and just needed to be cleaned. Seats were in great condition. Some of you know, there's a certain smell an old Mitsubishi has, and this Montero definitely had it. It's not bad, but it's unique, but it brings some type of nostalgia and feeling, especially if you're into old Mitsubishi cars. The previous owners of this Montero really took good care of it. Other than normal wear and tear, there was no damage. The third row folding seats were in near mint condition, probably never used. And any Montero owner knows, this rear door OEM kit, there's tools usually missing. Every single tool was there, not one piece was missing. The multi-disc CD changer was still there, and it was also still working. The OEM flashlight was still wrapped, and this OEM Mitsubishi accessory cargo net was still in original packaging. Now that the transmission was sorted out, it was time to do maintenance on the motor. So I ordered every single gasket, O-ring, and seal for the motor from Mitsubishi. And since the transmission was out, it was a great time to go ahead and service anything in the back of the motor, like the rear crossover pipe, the rear cam covers, and even the rear main seal. Normally this is not accessible through the top of the engine, so I took this opportunity to go ahead and replace it before I put the transmission back on. The transmission was ready to be put back in. After it was back in installed, I replaced the transmission filter and cleaned out the transmission pan. For the transmission, transfer case, and front and rear differentials, I used AMSOIL. And also, I took the opportunity to put a brand new fuel filter. Now it was time to do maintenance on the top and front of the motor. But before that, I went ahead and did a pressure wash in the engine bay to clean off all the 20-year-old dust and debris that have built up. A good clean engine bay is always good. I know I mentioned this had a well-documented long service history in Carfax, which is good, but I just didn't know the quality of parts they used and the quality of work, and I just needed that peace of mind knowing that I did the right thing and used the right parts. With just under 200,000 miles, and the notorious issue with the valve stem seals on these 3.5s, you can definitely see signs that this Montero was burning oil for a while. To clean up all that built up oil, oven cleaner does an amazing job. A couple cans, follow the directions, and maybe an old toothbrush and a little elbow grease, and this will be results. All clean like new and ready to go back on. Now the fun part, installing all the timing, ignition, cooling, and fuel components and parts. A common issue with the 98 to 2000 Monteros is the transfer case lever is unable to go or come out of four-wheel drive because the red fulcrum ball disintegrates. The solution is upgrading to a 94 to 96 Gen 2 Montero white fulcrum ball. This is an upgrade and it's known to be a much stronger and superior part. Now that the transmission and motor have been fully serviced, I can focus on the little things. The small details like replacing broken interior parts, replacing the speakers, and just general internal cleaning of the inside. Upgrade the headlights to LEDs, and I switched to JDM corner lights. The US lights are a single bulb, while the Japanese ones are dual bulb, one for signal and one for driving. Finally at the home stretch, and I could focus on some exterior improvements and upgrades, and finally I could take the Montero home.